There's this quote that I said where I said, it was one of my major viral videos that just took off. The one with the wig falling off and got 500 million views. And this girl I was dating at the time, she asked me, said, how does it feel to go viral like that? I said, it feels empty to be seen by millions when you only want to be seen by the one.
Just Heal with Dr. J is going to be a space where we foster healing conversations, conversations that are life enriching, conversations that are going to provoke thought, that's going to provoke change, and also provide insight. And so that's what I'm excited about. I am Dr. J, and welcome to Just Heal with Dr. J, powered by The Black Effect and iHeartMedia. And I'm excited for this podcast because it's a long time coming. My brother Charlemagne the God has been constantly asking me for the past 3 years, brother, you got to do a podcast. And I wanted to, but I didn't think that the timing was right. I think the timing is perfect. I'm no longer on tour, the Just Heal Bro tour. 3 years, 36 cities, and 18,000 men. Also, I encourage you to go grab that book, Just Heal Bro, for a brother, uncle, nephew, son. It is a powerful book for men to encourage healing and also to encourage men to tap into their vulnerability, to understand their humanity as men. So today, man, listen, this episode is special because I have my brother, my great friend. Many of you know him as the love doctor, the relationship expert for his phenomenal and awesome podcast, Dear Future Wifey. When I met Laterras, we met through a mutual friend who connected us and says, hey, you guys is to have a conversation. We get to having a conversation, and before we knew it, he said, listen, man, you got to come on my podcast. And I went on his podcast. He doesn't know this, and he's hearing it for the first time. He encouraged the Just Heal Bro book because he named the episode Heal Bro Heal. And so today I'm so excited to open up the Just Heal with Dr. J with my brother Laterras Whitfield, man, of Dear Future Wifey. Listen, y'all give my brother a hand.
Man, thank you, King. What's going on, man? Yes.
Brother.
Man, this is an honor. This is an honor. You know, I've been telling you from day one, you need to be doing this. And so I'm happy to see you, you're doing this. The world needs this.
Man, listen, it was something, man, even when you shared that I should be doing it, it was, I think the season I was in, there was so much going on and I didn't have capacity. I didn't have the margin because I know the podcasts take a lot of work.
You're working on your doctor's degree and everything. So who's busy?
My doctor's degree, hopping on and off stages, man, and going from city to city, network to network. And I'm just so excited, man, that this is really a full circle, because I was the first guest on your show that I think
went viral.
Yeah,
it went viral August of 2020 and got 100,000 views in that month. And I watched my YouTube change from 950 subscribers to 10,000 by the end of that month. And then I grew another 10,000 the next month, and now I'm at like 607,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow,
yeah,
man. Brother. Like when I tell you, man, I'm so excited, man. To have this conversation with you, man, and to take this dive, because when I came to you to have that conversation, we were both talking about our past relationships, and I had no idea that the episode would do what it did. I know for me, it was the first time that I was talking about the relationship that I came out of,
right?
That was very tumultuous. It was a relationship that I walked away from, and one day open up my social media and this individual is saying he did this to me, did that to me. And I'm like, none of that happened. And I just remember the voice of God saying, be quiet, don't respond. And no one knew when I left Houston. I lived in Houston for 13 years. And when I moved to Dallas, I came to Dallas because I was doing my internship here, finishing up my master's as a marriage and family therapist. And I didn't know anybody here but my family. And I remember you reaching out to me and a lady saying, I can't remember the lady's name.
Yeah.
She was like,
start with J. She hit me up the other day. She'll be mad at us. It's gonna be a problem. J something. Start with J.
Yeah. And man, when we connected, man, and we started talking and we had all of these similarities.
Yes.
And it was like, Were we in the same?
Yeah, because I felt like you were talking through me. It's like I was some puppet and you were my ventriloquist speaking my story. And so I was like, okay, God, I see why you have him on here. Because again, God still had me silenced in that season not to share. And so you began to be the voice that I needed to hear because I was being silent. And then here you are sharing that story and it just resonated with me.
Wow. Do you think, Laterras, that's powerful that you say that I was a voice for you.
Right.
You think that a lot of men are in need of someone to speak for them,
Absolutely.
for themselves?
Absolutely, because we've been so silenced. We've been silenced as young boys. A boy can fall off a swing, fall off a slide, hurt himself, and the first thing, don't you cry. You better shut up. Don't cry. He like, but this hurts so bad, and so you got to suck it up. We're told to suck it up. And so when we've been silenced for so long, even in our adolescence, it starts forming the ideology that what we say don't matter. Our pain doesn't matter. We can't give language to our pain. And so we just become silenced. And so then we hear another man speak our heart's posture, then we like, he's going through that too. Because as men, we don't talk to each other about I got hurt. And that's what made that episode resonate. They was like, hold on, these are two black men sharing that they were hurt before in relationships. You never hear that. No. And when you do hear it, it becomes the red pill community where it's come from a toxic standpoint.
Yeah. And that's so profound because we don't talk about the hurt that we experience in relationship because it becomes and can feel very punitive.
Yeah.
So we can feel as if I remember this when I called off my engagement years ago. It was mutual. We both knew that this is not it for either one of us. The moment that it got called off and I said that the engagement got called off, we're not getting married, the first thing people said to me, what do you do?
You do. Yep. Because they don't believe a woman's going to call it off. It has to be something wrong with the man. Then you did something that provoked her to call it off.
And
so, Jay, what did you do?
And I think, so I can exactly tell you what I did. For me in that relationship, when I got engaged, looking back and reflecting on my why, it was not a good reason. Part of me choosing her, there was something in me that was trying to rescue my mom through her.
That's good.
Because she had kids. And for me, I was wanting to be to her kids what we are, what I didn't have as a child. And so I said to myself, if I can be this to her kids, just maybe I could recapture, you know what I mean, what me and my sister didn't get as kids. And sometimes I think for us as men, if we're not careful, we can choose from a deficit. But I became so aware, I said, I don't think this is the right fit for me. And then I communicated that to her. And she knew that it wasn't a right fit for her. However, I said, why did you take the ring? And she said, why wouldn't I? And this is when I realized that as a man, you better be not only sure, but you better be aware, not just who you're choosing, but why you're choosing them.
That's good. That's some good self-reflection. And the reality is, but how did you deal with the fact of you being the person to blame and not taking the responsibility of that?
I didn't deal with it well. For me, I felt as if I was scrutinized by her circle. Everyone wanted to just kind of blame me. Like, well, you call this off and you calling it off, how could you make this wrong choice? And not giving me grace for even having the decency. You know what? I think we need to have a conversation. And we also need to be honest with each other.
That part.
Because I saw where God was taking me. And I also knew that who she wanted to be really wasn't attached to where I was going. Because, and what I mean by that is she did not like the limelight.
Oh, okay.
So we went to a couple of my speaking engagements and I was nowhere near where I am now. And I remember her saying to me, we were waiting for these women because at the time I just released Letters to a Young Queen. So this book was for young teens. And I had all these women standing in line. And she whispered in my ear, she's like, how long are we gonna be down here with these books? She was like, and I was like, huh? I said, I'm gonna stay down here till the book. And she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to my room and just let me know when you're done.
Oh, I dated a woman like that before. Oh, geez.
And at that moment, we had a conversation, and I said, like, the issue or something? She's like, Jay, this is just too much for me. And we laugh, like my friends, we laugh about it because, man, she was just like, this is just too much. I can't take this. And when we had a conversation, she says, Jay, I just want to go home and sit on my couch and sit outside and just kind of have a regular life. And I said to her, I don't think my life is going to be ready.
Absolutely.
And she told me, she said, I don't want to have to share you with the world. And when she said that, I said, I think, I don't think this is going to work. Because even though I wasn't where I was, I saw where God was taking me.
Absolutely.
And I think as men, we have to really be careful, because part of choosing is also understanding that I can't choose for my today.
For my future.
I have to choose for my tomorrow.
Yep.
So when you think about where you are now, we are both, I mean, what, 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, we are known
Across the world.
What does it feel like now that you're on the other side of the things that we talked about in the beginning when you were kind of in that healing stage?
There's this quote that I said where I said, there's one of my major viral video that just took off. The one with the wig falling off and got 500 million views. And this girl I was dating at the time, she asked me, said, how does it feel to go viral like that? I said, it feels empty to be seen by millions when you only want to be seen by the one. And so, yes, I have 1.5 million followers across all social media platforms, but I'm in this place where I'm like, I still want marriage. I want the one. I want to say I do. I want to take all the tools that I've learned having these conversations with different people about what makes relationships work, what makes them fail, how to show up sacrificially in a relationship, and I want to put that work into practice. And so to put in the work, the tools, all these conversations, over 200 plus interviews that I've had with guests to learn how their relationships have fallen apart. I'm really looking forward to putting that work into practice.
So do you feel that you've arrived at this place of wholeness? And for those that are watching, when I speak about wholeness, wholeness is not about perfection. It's not about, perfecting anything. Really, it's just awareness. It's lacking nothing. And I think the more aware that we become as men, I think it allows us to see some deeper depths of deficits within women.
Yeah.
And do you feel that it's become harder to date?
Yeah. In these dating streets, I find a lot of women that lack emotional availability.
I've experienced.
Yeah. And so I remember Sarah Jakes was on my podcast one day, and she went viral on a clip where she talked about that if women were honest, that there's a different level of responsibility that she has to have showing up for a real one. And she says, if we're just honest, a real one is really scary. And that's what I would experience. And I was like, well, I'm healed.
Confused.
Yeah. And man, it's just a lot. It'll take a minute to unpack everything as it relates to that. But I found myself dating women with intention. A lot of people assume because I have this big platform that I'm really not interested in getting married. You knew about a particular woman that I was dating that I had plans of marrying her one day, and I was intentional about it. And then she just pulled the rug from up under me saying that, listen, I got to go through therapy. I feel if I stay with you, I'm going to start destroying you. And I was like, what? What's going on? I said, I can rock with you through this process. She was like, no, you got to let me go. And it broke me. Oh my God, it broke me. That was in 2022, December 2022. And then I had to take an introspective look at myself. I said, how is it that now I've gone through this healing, I'm intentional, I let my yays be yays, my no's be no's, and then the relationship falls apart on that And God just began to encourage me and just say, hey, don't give up on love. At the end of each one of my episodes, I say, don't stop loving. Well, in that mindset, we can get calloused hearts where we experience heartbreak and be like, man, forget it. I don't trust these women. I don't trust my heart. I don't even trust my own decision making. And so I just had to always continue to recalibrate and say, you know, God has my special someone out there, and just keep choosing love.
I think that's so hard to encourage yourself and to enter and back into the dating.
Absolutely.
Because we're in our 40s.
Yep.
And when you're in your 40s, there's a element I feel that you arrive, and not so much that you are not willing to change.
Yeah.
You become very confident in who you are.
Absolutely.
And it's just hard to kind of turn certain parts to be receptive of something that may not be fully what you want.
Yeah.
Because there are people that are available,
Mm-hmm.
but are they available emotionally, mentally, and spiritually?
Absolutely.
They're available to date, but are they available in these areas? And I think that has been challenging even for me personally, because I've gone through that, even in just getting to know people. And particularly when you're getting to know someone that you see on the outside professionally, that is put together.
Start pulling that curtain back. You start
And then you begin to see behind the veil.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, this is not, and it's not that they're a bad person or that they have something wrong. You realize that there is a underdevelopment emotionally because they were so focused on developing professionally.
That part. We're going to take a moment of silence for that right there. Just a moment of silence. Because it's so real. It is so real because
It's so real.
yeah, guys. Yeah. I'm just going to
So let me ask you this, and this is a question that I will be asking all guests. As it relates to dating, as it relates to just life, how is your heart?
When I tell you I'm in a good space, my heart feels well. I celebrated my 47th birthday on March the 29th.
Man, happy
Just a couple of days. Yeah, a couple of days ago. When I tell you, I just took the day to just be reflective. I went and got a manicure, pedicure, went and got me a facial and everything. And I just said, I'm going to take it as a self-care day and just reflect on what God has done. So often I may find myself trying to accomplish the next goal. And that day I said, I'm just going to focus on a heart posture of gratitude and thank God for all that he's done. You know, because all that, I didn't even expect him to do all that he's done in my life in the past 5 years. I couldn't even imagine it, you know. And as I'm sitting here, I said, God, you're awesome. It was moments of brokenness, moments where I was laying on the floor crying. This December will mark 10 years since my divorce. I didn't believe that I was a suitable mate for my future wifey. So I had to go do the work in order to, so I can look myself in the mirror and be proud of what I seen, you know. And now I'm at the state of my life. I like, you know what? I'll be a great, great husband. But it took work. I mean, it took work. It took a great deal of forgiveness, me forgiving myself. Because I became everything I despised when I was married. And so it's this place was a moment of reflection and gratitude.
Man, you know, I want to go back to what you just said, because oftentimes men, the very thing that they hate and despise, they become.
Absolutely.
Man, I'd never be like my dad.
Absolutely.
I'd never do what my dad did.
Yep.
I'll never do what my uncle did. And for the men out there, I want you to know, when you become so hyper focused on what you don't want to do, you end up doing the very thing because that's where your attention is.
Absolutely. That's what I did.
And what I love is that you shared is that the forgiveness, because oftentimes we think it's about forgiving somebody who's hurt us or someone who's caused pain or trauma. The real work in forgiveness is forgiving yourself.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Because you got to think, Jay, I grew up in church. When I got married believing that there would be no expiration date to forever, that I'll be married to death do we part. I felt like I was going to be a faithful man and honor my woman in every sense of the word. And then here I am stepping outside of my marriage, cheating on my wife And it took me, I mean, when I say that hit me so hard, I was like, oh my God, I was the dude that would always reprimand my homeboys for cheating on their wives or whatever. And I said, now I became everything that I despise watching. And like I said, there is no proof, quote unquote, that my dad stepped outside my mom. I've never called him, I never did that, but I know. And that's been just what has always been. And so I remember growing up and I kept saying, I said, I'll never be like my dad. I'll never be like my dad. I'm a honor this woman. When I get married, I'm a honor her. I'm gonna be faithful. And then I became everything, like I said, that I despise. Yeah.
But what you did is what I'm hoping that this podcast do for not just men and women. Give them the courage to pursue healing.
Absolutely.
Give them the courage to pursue rewriting a new story. Oftentimes, we keep the same pen,
Mm-hmm.
we have the same sheet of paper, and we're writing the same story.
Over and over again.
Over and over and over again. And what I love about what you did is you surrender to the process.
Absolutely.
The most difficult thing that I believe for most men to do is to surrender, is to let go of your will.
Yeah.
And letting go of your will is also relinquishing your ego. It's saying, I don't know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I don't have a clue.
Do you know we don't have a manual on being a husband? You know, we get thrusted in this position and we take the greatest title that we'll ever have with no manual, with no instruction. A lot of time we didn't see it modeled by way of a father. And we're thrusted in this position to care for one of God's greatest assets, being a woman. And we have no manual, you know, and we end up causing destruction. Hold on. Miles Monroe said, this just popped in my head. Miles Monroe said, when the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Yeah. And so
The GOAT.
yeah, the goat. And so you marry somebody not even realizing the purpose of it, and you don't realize that subconsciously and consciously you'll end up walking that person through abuse.
Absolutely. And the other part of that is the model that we do have and seem very impossible.
That part.
Because when the scripture says, love your wife as Christ loved the church.
What that look like.
And we know that his love is what? Unconditional.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult when you live in a world that is centered around conditions.
Absolutely.
And I think the most difficult part for us as men is being thrust into a role without understanding what is required of us.
You know, this year 8 of my marriage, year 7 or 8, where I decided to even look up the etymology of the word husband. I said, what is a husband? I said, we say this, but what really is that? And I started researching, and husband comes from the Norse word husbande, which means keeper of the house, one who holds his house together. Yeah. And I said, well, I grew up in the Black community. It's normally the Black woman that keeps the house together. And I was like, hold on, I was supposed to do that? Big Mama wasn't supposed to do that? And so we were just taught wrong that the role of a husband is to be the householder. And I said, wow, God, I repent. I never knew what that was. So how am I operating in a position that I don't even know the definition of, but I'm expected to do that? And so it started reshaping, and I began to rethink about my position and my role as this vow that I took at being a husband. So it was very eye-opening for me.
And if we could do a deeper dive, not just men as individuals, to understand what is required of us when we take these roles, we take on these titles, whether it's mom, whether it's dad, when we take on these roles in these corporate entities, what is required? I think everybody gets excited about the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you start to think about, okay, what do you require? All right, we're going to pay you 6 figures, but you do know we're expecting you to be here all holidays.
Oh, I didn't sign up for that.
Like, you're gonna have sex.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you ain't gotta repent for it.
Yep.
But you do know you're required to love even when you don't like him or her.
Absolutely.
And I think if we can have more of these conversations that encourage healing, encourage others to seek, and encourage others to take a deeper dive into the origin of a thing. As you said, you began to research, what is a husband?
What is a husband?
So in closing, one of the questions that I think that is so powerful when it comes to this podcast, in particular, Just Heal, is what is healing to Laterras?
What is healing to me? It's the courage to face the things that I refused to face in the past, taking the bravery of it, uncovering what led to it, how to process those feelings, how to work through those things, and show up again. Not to live to die another day, but to keep living another day.
Man, brother, did you rehearse that?
No, it just came to me. It came from the idea of it. It came from the speaker.
Yeah, because you didn't even know I was going to act that. Man, listen, brother, that was beautiful, and I hope the listeners and those that are watching really take that in and really digest what he said. The courage to address the thing of the past you've been running from. Listen, healing is a journey. This quote is in my book, Just Heal, bro. Healing is a journey, and wholeness is the destination. Healing by any stretch of imagination is not easy. Going to therapy is not easy. Getting a coach is not easy. Getting a mentor is not easy. Finding somebody who's smarter than you is not easy.
Yeah.
Anytime that we have to level up, it exposes a level of insecurity in us. But can I tell you, if you're willing to let go of your ego and be willing to let go of what you had in mind, healing, mentorship, being coach, whatever that healing, whatever that modality, whatever that space looked like for you, I believe that it would really set you free. And brother, I just want to say this on camera and say this publicly, man. I am so proud of you, brother, because what you did for me, I had no idea that the podcast or that episode would do what it did. I did that for one. I didn't even really think much about podcasts.
Me neither.
I'm just kind of like, he wants to talk about this. What you did for me was you gave a voice to my pain. You gave a voice to something that I didn't feel that I could talk about, because when I went through that breakup, when I went through the pain of what she said and this smear campaign that she went on, and even God telling me don't talk about it, man, it was painful. Because see, it's one thing to deal with something when you like, you know what, I have to come.
Yep, so I did it.
But when you have to deal with something that you know that you didn't do,
Yeah.
and to sit on that information, I think for about 1.5 years, when I opened up, man, it gave me a voice that I didn't know that I need. And I didn't realize how many men that had experiences in relationships that they felt they couldn't talk about because they would be
Villainized.
They would be the villain.
Yep.
And what I had to learn, brother, is that I'm okay with being the villain in somebody's story.
Me too. And so God gave me that quote that's in my studio on the wall that says, "Let your character outlive their lie."
And you told me.
And I told you that. And I was like, God, I said, but they're saying this and they're saying that, and I need to get my story out there first. He said, "Vengeance is mine," said the Lord. So God will silence your haters by success. He will silence your haters by opening up doors that no man can shut and shut doors that no man can open. And that's what God, when we allow God to relinquish control, because I mean, I'm a man, I like to control my universe. And then God says, no, let me take that. Cast all your cares on me because I care for you. The minute that I began to do that, that's when God began to explode my life. The minute that you decide to do that in your life, God began to increase your platform. God, that moment in 2020 has increased your platform, has increased your influence in ways that you and I could have never imagined that day that we shot that episode in 2020. Yep. 5 years later, 5 being the number of grace, God put his hand over the situation and did something so powerfully that has transformed lives all across the world. Only somebody like God can do that.
Only somebody like God, man. And thank you, brother. And I'm so proud of you and what God is doing in your life, man. And just thank you for being my first guest, brother.
There it is. It's an honor.
Man, it's just I'm just amazed. Listen, for those that are watching, listen, join this healing community by subscribing to Just Heal Dr. J. Just Heal Dr. J. We're going to be bringing healing conversations. We're going to be bringing different guests, and I'm going to be bringing people on the show that are really looking to heal, people who are looking to excavate some things into the that are going on in their life and looking to have a deeper, in-depth conversation. And I'm looking forward to you joining this healing community. Again, thank you for tuning in to Just Heal with Dr. J, powered by The Black Effect and iHeartMedia.